Welcome to the Pickup Podcast, the place where women pick each other up, dust each other off, and help each other to shine. This is a place of lifting, refreshing, and truth-telling. Our goal? To collect the broken pieces of our lives and create a beautiful mosaic that reflects light and hope to the world. So take a deep breath, sis, because you've just found two new friends for your journey. We just have one question for you. Are you ready to pick up where we last left off? Let's begin.
So, Krisette, one reality in, public school, private school, anywhere is the challenges of learning differences and the opportunities with learning differences. What are some of the benefits of being in a homeschool environment and being able to adapt based on each child's or all of their learning differences?
Yeah. So one of the major benefits is that you are around your kid all the time. You're seeing everything they write, everything they read. You're hearing them read to you. And so you're able to pick up on, I'll say, inconsistencies pretty soon, pretty quickly. So a couple of my kids were what the school system might say is delayed in their reading. One of my sons didn't learn to read until he was almost 9. But he's also the one that just finished college calculus. Wow. So he just had a different skill set. And we were able to just kind of take our time with him because he had a little bit of a lisp and he had a little bit of dyslexia. Actually, most of my boys have had that, just a little bit of dyslexia. One of my sons in particular, Zarel, he didn't actually speak. He didn't speak until he was probably about 5. And even at that, he would whisper, he would bend down, mommy, and whisper to me. And a lot of people told me that we needed to be careful about that. And it was a sign that something was going on. But instead of having a big fit, right? Because sometimes parents tend to think if there's something that makes my child different, then I've done something wrong or there's something wrong with this child. That is not at all the case. We all have things that make us different. Some of the things are in learning. Some of the things are in behaviors. Some of the things are in our responses to other people, right? So we have to realize that this child is a full person. So anything that makes them different also makes them exceptional. Right. And all we have to do is lean into it to understand what's going on. And so this little guy, people really thought there was something wrong. I'm using their words, not mine, but wrong with him. I said, no, he's fine. There's nothing wrong with him. And we just paid attention and he was just kind of a quiet soul. And what we learned about him was that he had to move when he learned. He could not be still, right? So, and people laugh when I tell this story, but in order to get him to learn his addition tables, once he finally started talking to us, we would have to give him, I'd say 3 + 3, go. And he would run around the little table. And when he got back to that one spot, he'd say 6, and then 3 + 4, and he'd run around and he'd say 7. And then I started having him do laps around the neighborhood. And when he did his laps around the neighborhood, that's also how he memorized his multiplication tables. So there were just things that we learned. Now, if he was in a school setting, someone might have said that he had ADHD or that there was something that was quote unquote deficient. And that's not the case at all. It's just that we had to take what was going on with him and apply it in a way that he'd be able to learn. But then there are also some other things that are, quantifiable that we do need to address, right? So one of my sons has a stutter. And so because we learned that was getting in the way of his reading, we took him to a specialist and we just had them assess him. And then they were able to say, well, here's some exercises that you can do. And they were able to teach us about practicing talking in a mirror because it does something to stop the cycle of the stutter. And until he was comfortable, and that is really key. Once he was comfortable with where he was, then we were comfortable too. My oldest daughter has had some trouble with numbers, right? And just even mixing up her 6s and 9s and writing some things backwards, or when it came time to learning about different types of division, she would write it one way and it was just the mirror image of what she was supposed to write. And so we got her some assistance. We were able to get her into a dual credit class at Tarrant County College. And Miss Maureen Amond, who is the math teacher for all the homeschooled kids in Northeast Texas, she was amazing. And she helped Zora to be able to fix that right? Because she was able to see it because we were able to see it first. So I would just say that if you notice that your child is having a problem, or if they're struggling, or if they're expressing something to you, number one, trust your instinct. And number two, trust your child, because they know what's going on with them and they know if there's something that they need help with. And then there's so many resources around. So start by talking to your pediatrician. And then after you talk to your pediatrician, they'll be able to help you specialize. But even if you can't, let's say your pediatrician doesn't support you, let's say you can't get to a specialist, there are so many groups on Facebook. There's so much information on the internet to be able to help you help your kids correct these, so that way they're not obstacles to their learning. But the biggest thing is to trust what's coming out of your child's mouth, for sure.
And listen, I think even for parents who might be in the school system, I would encourage you, before, leaning to medication or different things, just take time, explore different alternatives. Because, working with young adults through our mentorship program, I've seen the adverse effects of years of medication because you were labeled ADHD at, 9 years old. I mean, so many things that maybe just talking and exploring different resources could be a huge benefit.
Absolutely. And I mean, as a nurse, I'm like an advocate if people need medication to take it, or if you need a therapy to use it. But I'm also an advocate for being like extremely well read and understanding what's going on. So if somebody gives your child a diagnosis, right? Or if someone says that your child has a special ability, then you need to immerse yourself in that and find out what all that means, because we all know that people that have Down syndrome are incredibly loving and giving and caring. So whatever your child is, whatever you're being told about your child, or whatever you're seeing about your child, there's always a B-side to that, right? There's always something that's going to be amazing. And my kid that didn't learn to read until he was like 8 or 9, which most people gasp at, they're just horrified, he's a math genius. So if I would have never leaned into that, if I would have only focused on the fact that, man, this kid is not reading, Sam can run with proficiency, then we would have missed a huge part of who he's supposed to be. So lean in, listen in, and definitely always be focused in on what's good for your kid.
That's right.
Yeah.
And what are their strengths? And we cultivate that.
Yes, that's what we do.
What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning into this episode of the Pickup Podcast. Keep in touch with us on Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, Anchor FM, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube at It's the Pickup, so you never miss any new content drops. We're your hosts, Krisette Cole and Dominique Jones, and we can't wait to pick up this conversation with you next time.